212. Guilt. Position paper number 201, June 1996. One of the most important facts in society is guilt. Although not the subject of much popular discussion in or out of the church, guilt is a very important and governing fact. It was not without reason that Sigmund Freud made guilt so basic to his theory. Freud's approach was deadly, however, because he made guilt irremovable. He saw it as part of our primordial inheritance, a natural and an ineradicable aspect of our being. His goal was to teach men how to live with guilt, not to eliminate it. Freud saw himself as a leader of a new priesthood. The old order of clergymen offered salvation from sin through Christ, a mythical idea for Freud. He would teach them to live with their guilt. But long before Freud, Sir John Denham, 1615 to 1669, wrote, "Fear and guilt are the same thing. The Sophie." This was an overstatement, but it is true that guilty men are fearful and are more readily controlled. When I was a student, I saw a young man of means, profligate, handsome, and a playboy, fall in love with a calculating virgin. They married, and she used his sense of guilt to control him radically. As a pastor, I encountered situations where a husband or a wife tried to push the spouse into adultery in order to gain freedom and self-justification in the other's guilt. The history of guilt is also a history of fear and control. A strong, godly, and guilt-free people are not easily controlled. Guilt is a major weapon of control because all men being created by God are responsible creatures. And whether they recognize God as their Lord or not, they manifest it in their guilt that they are responsible to Him. Quite rightly, my wife Dorothy has commented that, while no proof of God is necessary because nothing is more certain, guilt is an eloquent witness to God because it witnesses to our accountability to Him. Since Eden, guilty men have hidden from God and have been afraid of Him. Guilty men also fear all authorities: the guilty child, the parents, and the guilty man, the state's authority. Guilt and fear are closely associated. Guilt doth make cowards of us all, it has been said. A guilty people are more easily ruled than a population with a strong faith and a clear conscience. When I was very young, I was deeply impressed by a report from a visitor to the Soviet Union. The famine in the early 1920s had taken millions of lives. The people lived on a vastly lower scale than before the Russian Revolution. But there was little rebellion in most of them. They knew themselves to be guilty men. Their conscience tormented them and left them impotent. One man had said, "We deserved everything because we were happy for a chance to loot." The expression often used, "Don't lay a guilt trip on me," is a perceptive one. A guilt trip is a paralyzing and blinding thing. I learned years ago how deadly it can be. Once, after a sermon, a man came up to me to demand to know how I had learned his guilty secret and who had told me. He refused to believe me when I earnestly pleaded ignorance of what he was talking about, and he was a problem to me after that. The power of blackmail is guilt, and we live in an age of guilt because men are either without faith or have so defective a faith that they believe vaguely in God and Christ, but not in the atonement. Sin requires restitution, atonement. Man cannot make atonement to God, only Jesus Christ can. Man's self-atonement is sadomasochism. In sadism, he tries to lay the guilt on others. In masochism, he tries to make atonement by punishing himself. In either case, his efforts are futile. Jesus Christ, by his atoning death, makes restitution for us, and by his regenerating power, makes us a new creation, a new human race with him as our new Adam and head. Without Christ's atonement, we remain in our sin and guilt, unfree men to the core of our being. In Christ, we become free men. Guilt makes slaves of us all, slaves to someone or something. The fact of slavery is clear. Its forms are optional. Slaves can be recognized because they are in bondage. When someone with a good family, beautiful wife and children, a high income, fine home and more, became a slave to drugs, many commented, "How could he do that to himself?" But given the emptiness of his life religiously, it was essentially a question as to what form his slavery would take. The dramatic form it took did not erase the fact that he was a guilt-ridden man and a slave prior to his addiction. Guilt is a matter too great for us to cope with. It requires Christ's atonement and, in our day-by-day living, prayer and God's grace. Only so can we be free men. In a slavery-marked world, free men will be more than conquerors through him that loved us. Romans chapter 8, verse 37.